Hi, I'm so glad you could join me today for this AAPI Youth Literature Book Review. I have chosen to share with you Filo's Butterflies, and this book is written by Litea Fuata, and it is illustrated by Myo Yim. And Filo is experiencing butterflies as he is about to perform a traditional Samoan dance at his auntie's wedding. And the dance is called the Siva, and he's experiencing nervousness to dance in front of the people attending the wedding and is feeling butterflies. And his family is going to help him feel better about performing and getting over his fear. I was tasked with analyzing this story using the AAPI rubric and the following criteria to analyze the story and decide whether it is a book that I would want to include in my library or whether I would want to read it. So, this particular story is about a little boy, as I mentioned, that is Samoan and is going to be performing a traditional dance. And I felt that the way that this was done was very authentic and did not present any issues that I could see in terms of how they presented the dance. And if anything, I thought that it was very modern how they incorporated not just the Samoan children, but also other children that were in attendance at the wedding as well. So it felt very inclusive and relatable, especially the feeling of getting in front of an audience and having to perform and feeling nervous about it. One thing I did take note of is that I felt like in the illustrations that the Samoan facial features, the noses of the characters were quite a bit bigger than those of anyone that was Caucasian in the story. But I did feel like there were lots of representations of multiple kinds of body type, skin color, hair color, and the setting of the story was in New Zealand, which is a Pacific Islander. Represents Pacific Islanders and the Samoan culture. So the setting was extremely appropriate, and I felt like the illustrations really added to the story and really brought it to life and made it feel authentic. One of the things I did take note of with reading the story is that there, um, the aunties that were getting married, it was a same-sex marriage, and although it was extremely well done and really wasn't a focal point of the story, it was really just seamlessly written in, feeling very normal, and the fact that I really barely even noticed that it was a same-sex marriage until I dug a little deeper and started analyzing the story a little better, but having said that, I do feel like when I'm thinking about including this in my library, it would make me much more sensitive to whether it was a book that I would choose for a read aloud. And in today's age, I feel like it probably would not be a good choice necessarily, even though I did think that the story was really, really well done, which to a degree, the fact that that was included, um, made me a little disappointed in the fact that there are very few Pacific Islander, children's literature stories, especially, focused on the Samoan culture and Samoan heritage, and so this could limit, access to the story, but, the author did a really wonderful job of creating a story that felt natural and really worked through the character's problem of feeling anxious and being supported by his family to be able to do this traditional dance that his ancestors have performed for centuries. So overall, I really enjoyed the story and would include it in my library with possibly a note just noting the fact that it does have contain the same-sex marriage, and if there are children whose parents do not want them bringing home these kinds of books, that it would be noted for who could and couldn't take it out. I know that's how it's done in Pittsburgh. Their parents are able to note whether they do or do not want their children to be able to check out certain kinds of stories. So it would be important just to make note of that. When considering the author and illustrator's backgrounds, Litea Fuata is Samoan and lives in New Zealand and is therefore very capable of writing a story about Samoan culture and speaking being knowledgeable in her own heritage and traditions surrounding being Samoan. So I really felt like that brought a lot of authenticity to the story and the fact that she is a Pacific Islander. And the illustrator also is Australian and Korean, and her name is Myo Yim, and she did, as I mentioned earlier, beautiful illustrations that really felt like they brought a lot of diversity and really was able to authentically reproduce the Samoan features. Maybe, in my opinion, it could have they were maybe a little bit exaggerated, but I'm wondering if Litea Fuata would have had a opinion about that if she felt that it was inappropriate. So I would think that the fact that she is the author and she is Samoan, she was comfortable with how the illustrations turned out. So I really felt like that both of these authors and illustrators brought authenticity and their own heritage of being AAPI to the story. One of the things that the rubric really looks at closely is what impact does this book have on a child or teen reader understanding of themselves and the world in which they live. So was the APIA young person's self-image portrayed in a way that was authentic? And yes, I felt like this book did a excellent job of that. And I did feel like that children that are non-APIA would also benefit from the story as well and learn a little bit about the culture. I did like the fact that this book did have back matter and contained some background information about this particular Samoan dance called the Siva and the tradition surrounding it. So I also liked that it had some pronunciations too, so that difficult words were able to be figured out without too much difficulty. So I felt like the inclusion of this was extremely important and added to the authenticity of the story and and really made it added to it and made it worthwhile inclusion.